And we're streaming all across the planet this morning, as we do every morning. The morning program, 7:30 to 10:30, Monday to Friday. Now, John's here to have a kind of look back at the events of the Christmas period. Salvation Army, traditionally hugely busy at that time of year. Christmas has been successful in your terms. Also successful is the Newry Nights, the organisation, which you're part and parcel of. You're the catalyst, in a sense, for it.
Yep.
And it's part of the new outreach of the Salvation Army in Newry. And I saw in the paper this week, you're seeking more volunteers for the nights. Why do you need more volunteers?
We are. Well, we started off with a fair number. We had 13 volunteers to start with. They've now got settled and into what it's all about. And now, because of some of the things we're now getting involved in, and it was always the plan, we're now looking for some more volunteers with the hope of doubling the amount we already have, which also means our teams can be wider spread, they can be more focused, and they can possibly help more people.
Yeah, this is something that has the potential to be constantly in the community. It's not going to go away.
No, well, not as far as we're concerned. The original plan, volunteers depending, when we first set off, was to find about 40 volunteers. So now we're actually doing that in steps. And we're surprised, pleasantly surprised, how well the nightlife and Newry itself has accepted now Newry Nights almost as part of the normal scene.
Yes, yes. And how does that gain expression? How do you see that?
Well, in the week since we started, and it's only about a month, we've only been going since about the 6th of December, and now we're finding that people themselves are coming to us and asking for help. Last Saturday, no, not last Saturday, the Saturday before, we had a number of people who were enjoying the nightlife, who had seen some incident or somebody in need of help, and they actually approached our teams
and alerted
said,
you.
Newry Nights, can you help?
Yeah.
And that is quite a positive sign.
Absolutely.
We're always greeted with enthusiasm, with encouragement, with interest. People still want to know who and what we are. And I discovered the other week as well that we're actually, our fame, if you like, has actually reached Drogheda in the south.
They've heard of you.
People have heard of Newry Nights within a month. So it's all looking positive.
Where you know, was there an existing template for it? Where did the idea come from? Because it's different.
The original idea, I must admit, was sort of based on the street pastors, which many people will be familiar with in such places as Belfast, and there are other places in the province and across the UK.
Are these the guys who hand out the leaflets?
Some will, but the basic plan was there to help people. When I had the first discussions with the local council, that structuring and scheme didn't quite fit into what it was felt Newry needed at this time. And so Newry Nights has been adapted and tailored to fit the needs of the Newry community.
Yeah. Now, you're out in the community at the weekends. People are leaving their warm home, going out into the weather, they're going out into the angularity sometimes of those you meet.
Yeah.
It's a big call on people. People need to be tough to do it.
It's a big call, and yet it's something inside the volunteers we find. It's something that drives that individual. We have people who aren't Christians, who wouldn't profess a faith, and to hear them talking with enthusiasm, when people will say, why do you do this? And I hear phrases about, but isn't this what people should do? Shouldn't we be looking after our fellow man? I do that because I want to help. And to come from non-believers, I think actually just shows that altruistically, there are people
Yeah.
who want to do good
Yeah. That's
for no reward.
Yeah, it's a lovely feeling. It's good because I've often heard it said that, and I don't agree with the concept, it is in giving that you receive, because you're not doing it to
Yeah.
get something back.
No.
It's not about putting 2 and 6pence in the slot machine, pulling the lever and getting a pound out.
No.
It doesn't work that way. You're doing it because it is, as you say, quite simply the right thing to do.
And I think that's the grace that we find in people and the sort of volunteers that are coming forward. They don't want a salary, they don't want to pay, they simply want to live out what they believe people should be doing.
John, how is the army, the Salvation Army? You're sparse enough with numbers. Your age demographic is quite old. Are you managing to start the rebuild?
We have already started a lot of the rebuilding work. Obviously, Newry Nights is part of it.
Yes.
We've made a number of useful, what we would call, or will call, people already linked through our Christmas appeal. We are now in the process of developing some more initiatives for Newry involving the workplace, involving women, involving the elderly, the vulnerable. And we've already been making initial inquiries with the community grouping about helping some, or the potential of helping disabled people,
Yeah.
and lonely people in the Besbrook area. So we're spreading out
Yeah.
across Newry and linking in.
We'll come to each of those issues in a moment. But in order to do this, you need people prepared to get into the uniform.
Well, not even necessarily the uniform. We need people, to coin a phrase, to step up to the mark.
Yeah.
And other people to realise that there is something to be gained, although not materialistically, from helping others.
Yeah. But what we're saying is if one wanted to be a member of the Salvation Army, is it compulsory that you wear the uniform?
No.
No.
We have not necessarily in Newry, but across the world. We have a number of people who will accept the Salvation Army as their church and not wear a uniform.
Yes. Yes.
We've been approached in the past with people having a problem of the fact that as more committed members of the Salvation Army, we choose not to take alcohol and
Yeah.
smoke and so forth. And for some people that causes a slight hiccup. What is overlooked is not every member of the Salvation Army will take their commitment that far. There are members who won't wear uniform, who will still smoke, who will still drink, who will still gamble. This is the range of choice we offer.
Yeah. And you're still saying, come to us, come to us.
And it's the whosoever.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
We have a wonderful song in our songbook that reminds us whoever will may come, and who comes will never be turned away.
And you do that in your charitable outreach, because I've been in your hostel in Belfast. I've done a television documentary there, and I've seen the independence that you give to the men and women who come to you. They have their own rooms, they have their own independence, they have their own sets of interests that they're allowed to look after. You know, you're meeting people where they are.
And this was the heart of William Booth when the Salvation Army was first established. And can I just add, this year, the Salvation Army actually celebrates being in existence for 150 years.
Wow. Happy birthday to you.
And in Newry this year, we will be celebrating 125 years of serving the Newry community.
25 years in, and Newry was,
125.
but 25 years into the 150 years, Newry was there.
So Newry was one of the first posts,
Yeah.
if you like, of the Salvation Army. But that moral of allowing people to make informed decisions and claim their own individuality,
Yes.
and to develop and grow,
Yes.
is still maintained in everything we do.
What was it that grabbed you about the Salvation Army? Why did you become a Salvationist?
Purely by accident, I have to admit. I went to spy on the army. I'd become disillusioned with the particular church grouping I had attended since birth. And on visiting the Salvation Army in Lincolnshire, actually, I became quite amazed at the, I suppose, the Christian approach, the nice approach that I saw within that particular corps, within that particular church. And I went to catch them out. I went to actually prove that they couldn't be goody two-shoes all the time, and this was quite a false front in order to impress. And I went for weeks and weeks and never caught them out. I went one evening as opposed to going in the morning and still never caught them out. And this had taken a number of months. And I eventually picked up my faith again as I really felt I belonged. And that's the important thing, I think, about people feeling that they belong to something and are not just a member of it.
Yeah, and it's almost a family thing.
It is.
A family of folk there who are at the Citadel.
And this small family in Uri is part of the bigger family of the Salvation Army Church, the Christian Church. So we're a small group here, but we're part of a much bigger group.
John, you travelled with the army. You were a missionary overseas.
Yes. Yeah.
Where did you go?
We, my wife and I, particularly had a preference to go and help people we hadn't linked in with. So we offered and were accepted and ultimately sent over to the Czech Republic, where initially we were posted to a place on almost the Czech-German border at the far end of Bohemia, a place called Kalavivari, or Karlsbad as the Germans would call it. And there our responsibility was as the directors of social work. So I worked within a hostel, my wife worked within a community centre and corps. And a lot of the people we worked with, apart from the homeless, were the Czech and the Slovak Roms, people who, because of their culture, were despised. We were there for about a year, 18 months, and developed some work there. And then we were moved to Prague, where I was sent as, they would call it the first officer. So we had a director, a manager, and I went as the first officer responsible for chaplaincy and training the staff. And my wife was sent to national headquarters to head up the Salvation Army's prison work across the Czech Republic.
Wow.
So we had that wonderful pleasure of actually seeing another side of life. And homelessness, we discovered, is so different. When we see people queuing up at 4 o'clock in the hope to get a bed at 9 and not being guaranteed, when we see people, homeless people in particular, at that point being considered as worthless, and I mean worthless in a sense that people in the UK and Ireland have never experienced. They would constantly be picked on for documents and so forth by the police. It breaks your heart. It really does break your heart.
It was a tough call for your dear lady, your wife, to be in the prison system in that country. Like the prison system there would be most problematic.
And again, it is totally different. I did some prison work. My wife headed up that nationally, but we went into prisons which were classified as a category 5. And there you would still see the guards with their machine guns on the watchtowers. You would have had former members of the KGB and so forth imprisoned there, and security was really tight. And there wasn't a thought that if you tried to get out with somebody in the car, if you approached the prison, the chances are you would be shot at.
Oh yeah.
Such was the security.
Yeah.
So it was a tough call, and we had to adapt to that very quickly.
Where in the last year, John, in Uri, wherever you've been, where in that time, tell me of an incident in that time, the last 12 months, where you have known with certainty that you stood side by side with and walking in the shadow of Jesus.
Wow, now that was a big one. That's a really difficult one to just to just find one instance.
Yeah.
I come across people every day, and there are situations which arise. I think in a special way, there was an incident out with Newry Nights where we came across a mum who was distressed. She felt worthless. And obviously we let the female members of our team deal with it.
Yes, of course.
But we were there. But throughout that intervention, if you like, there was a feeling for me and other members of the team, which they shared later, where there was, I don't know, there was a bond, there was a special moment between a young mum who was distressed, concerned about her family, who felt that mums couldn't have a day off. She felt terrible shame about the situation she was in, and there was no need for a shame. And I think everybody in that team actually felt that closeness, that compassion of Christ to another human being.
At that time. Yeah,
And
that's what I
it
mean.
is a moment and a feeling that you can't really express.
But it's nevertheless tangible.
You
It's there.
feel that closeness, you feel that something.
I can understand. I can understand. Now, Christmas has been and gone. Busy time for you.
Busy time, yes. We had the Christmas Family Appeal, which was supported by Mission for Christmas and obviously St Vincent de Paul. An extremely busy time. We had a few less referrals that we've had other years. That was simply because one or two of the bigger organisations didn't get in touch with us. But having said that, we worked right through until Christmas morning, where we delivered, Christmas Eve morning, where we delivered or dispatched the last gift. On the rough figures in Newry, as small as it is, and we talk about the small numbers, we received in excess of 85 separate referrals for assistance and dispatched gifts to almost 300 children in the Newry area of all ages.
Wow.
On top of that, there were food parcels sent out. There was pastoral care given. We've had an exceptionally busy Christmas, but all done with a smile.
Oh, well, indeed, and it's you're doing it for the very best possible reason, so why wouldn't you smile?
My wife and I had to take it in turns. We picked up the tummy bug, so it
for goodness sake,
slowed us down a little bit, but we got through it.
Yeah,
we got through it.
Good stuff. So the plan now in the year ahead, you have a new initiative directed at the older folk in the community.
We have, from the Christmas Appeal, a local company who was also celebrating an anniversary of their firm, gave us a wonderful gift with the request that it be used in our work in the community. And as such, bearing in mind that we had catered to one particular area of the community, I awoke with what I feel is a God-given moment, a God calling, that there are people in our community who are elderly, lonely, vulnerable, who maybe don't see people and don't have a contact. So my concept is, and we're in the process of launching it, is what we're going to call centenary cartons. And the idea will be is we're going to ask neighbours, local agencies that work with the elderly and the vulnerable and the lonely, to nominate somebody who is elderly and vulnerable. And we will select 10 fitting in with the donation we've had. And each one of those 10, we will aim to deliver a centenary carton. Centenary because of our 125th anniversary.
Yes.
A carton to the value of €100, so that's about what, 90 odd pound.
It's a good gift.
So the gift that we've been given, we're going to use as a gift to other people. So that is we're working through on it. There was a small ad in the Newry report asking for those nominations. So we're just looking forward to receiving those. And hopefully, if we receive the nominations, it may be in a few months down the line, we can do another one.
Yes, of course.
Because people are giving into our community fund. And it's pointless sat in a bank account.
No, and people get, especially old people, They get a great kick out of getting a present.
Yeah. And we've said, it may be something, there may be something in that parcel that somebody hasn't been able to afford.
Uh-huh.
And I sort of joke and say it may be, jelly beans or licorice all sorts or
Yeah, whatever. Little bit of
something like that.
pampering.
And we will actually add those into the parcels.
Yes.
So somebody gets something they couldn't normally afford.
I understand entirely. John, finally, we're at the end of the week. Maybe you would help us end that week by leading us in a short prayer.
I will, a short thought and a prayer. And I've started by focusing our thoughts on the Newry Nights as a starting point.
Yes.
And I'll share this with you. Newry Nights will once again be on the streets this weekend, offering support, care and assistance to those in distress. Yet the issues we face will fade into an insignificant dementia when we think of other things around the world. We think of the Ebola, the situation in France. None of us knows what lie ahead for us as individuals, as families and communities, but we can be assured that God has made us each a promise, that he will not give us anything beyond what he knows we can bear. And if we stumble, he's there, arms outstretched, to catch us and protect us. We can recall the past and all that contains. We can, to a degree, control the present time, the moment in which we find ourselves right now. But later, tomorrow, next week, all these things are in his hands. And so we pray, this is another day, O Lord. I know not what it will bring forth in the week ahead, but make me ready for whatever it may be. If I am to stand up and be counted for someone or something, help me to stand bravely and in strength. If I am to sit still, help me to sit quietly. If I am to lie low, disregarding the turmoil around me, help me to do it patiently and in love. If I am to do nothing but wait, let me do it gallantly and in faith of your will. Make these words more than words. Give us each the Spirit of Jesus at the end of this week and the beginning of next. Amen.
Amen. That's John. Thank you, John. Major John Parrott of the Salvation Army in Newry. Thank you for coming in and ending the week with us. We'll be back momentarily with you, coming very shortly on the programme. The swimming adventurer, Pádraig Mallon, and his new book, coming momentarily.